So, sort of making a response video to this do not watch. Yeah, so he's in. This is the context, right? I was scrolling on YouTube and then I saw this social experimentalist live something, and there was a 1,000 pound challenge for you know mm, if you make an argument for having kids, then you'll win 1,000 pounds. So yeah, I was like, oh, let's see what's going on here. So this guy was there. This channel, Do Not Watch, was there, and making pretty good arguments, and it was fun, and uh, there was a natalist who was saying, "Oh, you're denying them the pleasures. You're denying them the pleasures," and it's just so stupid. So, I I checked the channel, and saw Do Not Watch, you know, having a live doomer chat, and when this was doomer, and I was like, oh, let's see what's going on here, and so like in in the beginning nobody was talking about anything, so you know I wanted to engage with him and talk to him about primordialism. So yeah, this is I see this was like I was writing in the chat, and just to this is one of the things I like to know how like a lot of antinatalists are like very inconsistent when it comes to primordialism, but he's talk and doom and all of this. I thought, well, let's see what he has to say. So yeah, I'll respond to this, and there are also comments here. I'll read them and I'll tell you about it. So yeah, let's begin.
Just teachings that they grew up with.
So yeah, I asked the question, what do you think about primordialism? So let's just go on with this.
So yeah, many years I had, I had that thought, and then many years later I discovered actually, wow, there's this thing called Gnosticism, and it more or less aligns with my personal feelings. Still delving into it, but it is what it is. I mean, at the end of it, unfortunately, you still have to, acknowledge that even in Gnosticism, there's this all-powerful God above, or all, there's this loving God above everything, the most powerful God above everything, the most powerful part of God that is above everything, and yet it allows the suffering on this planet, which is still bamboozling, even in from the Gnostic perspective. So let me just keep reading the comments. Ethel Blay says, "What do I think of primordialism?"
Yeah, so this is where he read my comment, and what do he thinks about primordialism? Let's listen to him.
I'm not really a fan of that
Ah, okay.
philosophy. I mean, I view death as a harm.
The argument is simple. You have to like answer this question for, you know, to be consistent with what you're actually saying. Is death a harm to the being who's now dead? It's that simple. I would argue no, it can't be a harm. It can't be a harm to the being who's now dead. It just can't be a harm. So
Because fundamentally it causes trauma for those that are left behind.
I mean, I've made this argument before as well. Yeah, you can say that it causes trauma for the ones who are left behind, but I can also say, hey, if you continue to live, the trauma, the suffering of the trauma of your left behinds is, if you put it on the scale and you put the suffering of your continued existence, all the animals being tortured, you know, If you put that on the scale, then yes, is if you're gonna give that as a counter argument, then this is, you know, yeah, it's better that you prevent that suffering because that weighs more than the perception of your left behind. Oh, I loved him or whatever.
Done it. And I think if we had a world that freely, embraced primordialism.
Freely embrace primordialism. I mean, this is like so. It's simple. If we uh, have a world where human beings get rational and realize, hey, this is just too stupid. It causes way too much mess. Let's just blow this whole thing up so that it doesn't occur again. That's what we can do here, and let's just let's just quickly end this risky game of, you know, who knows what could happen. Yeah, that's if they embrace that, it would be a very good thing. It would be, you know, that's the last step of intelligence, in my opinion.
There would be many injustices on those who exist.
Many injustices on those who exist, and there are many injustices to those who exist because of the continuation of existence, and it will keep on perpetuating.
They would be, perhaps against their own will.
Perhaps against their own will, they're causing injustices every day by living against someone else's will. So this argument goes both ways.
Blighted or ended, and I don't think that would be an acknowledgement of their individual, sovereignty, the sovereignty over their own life. The
Sovereignty over their own life. Now this is just like, this is pro-life, you know. So it all comes back to the same principle. Either you're pro-life or you're pro-mortalist. There's no in between. You, as much as people want to, you know, find a middle ground, there is none. Either you're pro-life or you're pro-mortalist.
fact that they have their own individual
Pro non-existence. This guy, there's another guy who was asking this question beneath oceanic state. He asked pro death or pro suicide, and I replied pro non existence. That's pro mortalism. Like, death is the same thing as you not being born. Didn't you? It, the state of being dead, the brain shutting off, is the same as the brain never being created. It's the same. That's logic.
Their own individual power to choose their own destiny. That sounds like I'm not a hard determinist, but you know what I mean. I think that individual, decision making.
I know what you mean. I'm saying it's not a good argument against primordialism. It doesn't work.
King is important, and anyway, I'm gonna keep reading.
I mean, you can be reasonable and okay. Like, this is the thing. If tomorrow they're all going to be sterilized, yes, okay, don't. But I would still say if there's if the same question, if there are two buttons, you only have the option to press one button. Either you press the button which sterilizes the whole planet, or you press the button which just annihilates it. Annihilation is the more logical one because it not only prevents the future suffering in the sense of the future beings who might have been born, but it also prevents the suffering of the existing beings who are going to suffer and die. And why does it need to be prolonged? That's the question, and there's no logical answer to that. There's life doesn't need to exist, and this is like, I mean, this is the inconsistency with these anti-natalists.
Pro non-existence. I'm only pro non-existence from the anti-natalist perspective.
Yeah, that's where you know.
That, don't bring someone here. I'm not pro-existence from the perspective that people must be, put out of existence.
That's where you put the uh, bring the rabbit out of the hat. That's where you're inconsistent. If you're going to accept that it's better never to have been, then logically you'll have to accept that it's better to no longer be, because life is the harm. Primordialism is pro non-existence. Existence is the harm. Non-existence can't be the harm, because there's no one to be harmed. And once you're dead, you're in non-existence. Simple.
Once they're here, because that again is a huge issue, and it's obviously blighted by problems of lacking consent, shall we say?
Lacking consent. I mean, this is the whole thing, right? For your life, for the continuation of your life, you're violating consent. That's a fact. You're violating the consent of beings to, not be tortured. This whole system of life that's the reality, is it's running on fucking blood. Doesn't need to perpetuate tomorrow. If every being goes to sleep and doesn't wake up, all sentient beings go to sleep and don't wake up, how the fuck is not the best thing that could happen to the beings who were alive and the potential beings whom they might have created, because they were not all sterilized? So again, they're not all sterilized. They're going to create more beings, impose on the future. So this is the thing, right? You have to choose the imposition, so to speak. This is where you're stuck at. Either you impose now, you impose on less now, or you let the perpetuation of life go on and more imposition happen in the future. What is the logical decision? That's Promoralism takes you to the logical decision. That is, the sooner we get out of here, the sooner we all win. So yeah, we have to first euthanize the animals. Obviously, that that's the that's what we have to do here. That's what we for. That's the reason. That's the only good reason to exist, in the sense that if you're going to be a rational, just this should be the principle that, yeah, let's euthanize all these animals, let's end this suffering. And when you start seeing what's the cause of it is, you'll see, oh, you have to decrease the human, you have to, there's just so much shit here, you just can't say, oh, it might get better in the future. It's the uncertainty will should actually make you say that, hey, yes, the sooner this is ended, the better for everything.
Sisyphean said, yes, that's why I liked your channel's old name, because I like the idea of someone providing a connection and outreach to other AIs or people receptive to the idea in general. Okay, Sisyphean. Oceanic Estate says, I think life holds real intrinsic value, yet so do I. But the value is actually in seeing the beauty of the futility of living. Existence has value in this alone. Well, that's your opinion. That's your subjective found something that you find beautiful about existence, and that it helps you in some way. Therefore, says death can't be a harm to the person who is now dead.
So yeah, this is where I asked him to, how it just can't be a harm to the person who is now dead. So yeah, let's see how you answer that.
Well, it can be a harm to their aspirations.
If they're dead, they don't have any aspirations.
You know, their quote legacy.
This is just pro-life.
If that person lived with this vigor for a cause or something they wanted to do,
I can understand. Yes, an agenda was harmed in the sense that yeah, the thing that could have happened didn't happen. But realistically, the you can't say that uh, if I die in a millisecond, now I am harmed. I wasn't harmed. There's nothing to. There wasn't any harm. There's no one to. And now once you're dead, the, once the brain is shut, it's off. You won't give a shit about anything, and that's the failsafe that wins. So it can't be a harm to the person who's now dead. So it's if it can't be a harm, then why why would you say that death is a bad thing if it can't be a harm to the person who is now dead, who will be dead? Just just can't.
um, and if you know that was their life's aim and goal, their energy was put into that. It could be said that there is a harm in their life ending because that energy was wasted. So unfortunately, the energy that was their life came to naught, and perhaps even harmfully so, because if they die, there wasn't any fruition of their efforts, and they didn't get to cause the positive change for others.
It all boils down to the but life could be a positive kind of thing. It's the same argument. I mean, yeah, you can say that, and I can also say, they could have this energy could have even caused more waste by perpetuating. So if it was ended soon, then it prevented the more waste. So it's a good. So yeah, this is just it doesn't work as logic. What is the harm to the being who's now dead? There ain't none. The being is dead. That what it means. It's it's simply in a state of nothingness, where you, again, the same argument that I make. 100 years ago, before you were born, you were experiencing nothing, and that's what's going to happen once, because we now recognize the reality that consciousness is a byproduct of the brain. It's once the brain is off, the consciousness is off. So yeah, that can't be a harm to the person who's dead.
If that makes any sense. If that makes any sense. And by the way, I am rambling.
I said, and I understand your view, okay. But then I also said, but they'll impose suffering if they continue to live. So isn't that an imposition as well? Yeah, their agenda could be harm, but I agree. But realistically, they're not in a bad place. Exactly that. That's the whole point. They're not in a bad place.
It doesn't solve any.
And if I can make the argument that continuation of existence could be a bad place for them, then logically you will go to Not a bad place. Non-existence. Death. Soon.
Meaningful issue regarding the problem of existence ties back in with Gnosticism. Ethel Blaze says, but they'll impose suffering if they continue to live, so isn't that an imposition as well? Here we go again. Well, I mean, you can't be sure. I mean, what
Exactly.
I'm going to say is, I think that overall, yeah.
You can't be sure you should be risk averse because we can't be sure my future child would be harmed or would be pleasured or whatever. We can't be sure about that, so we should be risk averse and, you know, not let it exist. And we should be risk averse that we can't be sure what fucked up shit could happen in the future. We have very little control over it. These are crude forces that are running this whole fucking show in the whole big picture. So, yeah, you should just, soon as we can, just exit this. Prevent the whole. If you don't make the mess, we won't have to clean up the mess. It's the same argument. Prevent the future. Prevent your future. This be the last generation. That kind of thing. But I understand, like, there's, at the moment, idiocracy is winning and all this crap, and you step into it, try to, alright, let's start cleaning it up. Like, fuck, it's ingrained in all of this shit. And it's just like, it seems so futile and all, and you're like, oh. But that doesn't defeat the logic.
Yes, we can impose suffering by existing, but it could also be said that somebody, by existing, may cause a positive thing to occur that
my child may cause a positive thing to occur.
Dilute or, cause the reduction
that may cause the
in negativity or negative outcome in the world. It may be. So in that regard, death may also be a harm.
Keep evading the main question. How can it be the harm to the being who's now dead?
There will be people who might die or might be killed, who could have caused a positive outcome.
I could have had a kid and he could have caused a positive outcome. That doesn't make antinatalism invalid.
Okay, in some way. Or they could have been also.
This doesn't make primordialism invalid.
So don't forget, it's not just. It's not very simple. We seem to look at the.
I can see, but the logic is logic is supposed to make it simple.
Existence, sometimes superficially. Sometimes what may appear to us as a dull or uninspiring person, right? They may well be the inspiration in somehow or other, okay, for somebody else. There may be, this chain of causation may come from.
I can have a child because it will make. I will have an inspiration. I mean, this is not a good
somebody
argument.
who we may not view as even intelligent, okay, and their actions, their words, or something that happens to them, even, literally something that happens to them, be that fortunate or misfortunate, unfortunate, something that happens to them may cause a chain of events that inspire somebody else to do something positive.
Exactly, that's the whole thing. I can make the same argument and something could happen that could have a negative change, a very bad outcome. And you could have said, I could have said, if somebody killed Hitler when he was a kid, yes, I can, if you can, that's the whole thing, the uncertainty. The preventing this is the argument. preventing a negative, a suffering, is more valuable than preventing a deprivation of, like, something positive can happen. you know if we can prevent the whole negatives by just ending this blight on earth, that's the good, the whole asymmetry argument.
Or to change the world in a positive way. I'm just speculating. I'm just putting that out there. That is a possibility, is it not? So
Yes, that is a possibility, and there's also a possibility that I could have a child, and you could. Well, I mean, this is not a good argument.
even somebody you view as redundant in some way, dying, could actually cause harm, because they may not. They may be their place in that chain of causation may be broken, and that link may obviously cause uh, the otherwise positive situation not to happen further down the chain, if you know.
Otherwise, I mean, the otherwise, but the argument can make the same argument as a natalist, I could say.
What I mean, because I barely know what I mean, but hopefully somebody does. One moment, please.
So after that, I just said, I argue for primordialism as the rational, logical position, and like you said, like he was saying, the uncertainties of the future and the risky nature of this life game, we should all be wanting to end this as soon. I wanted to write more, but you can't write longer than this in the chat, live chat, whatever. So you get what I mean. Then he went, I don't know, out for a call or
That's
something.
my friend. 1 minute. I'll be right back in 2 seconds.
Okay, let's jump ahead then.
Right. Yeah. 1 moment. Keep asking questions. Keep chatting amongst yourselves. I'll comment if I can.
So somebody commented there are lifestyles that can eliminate impositions such as veganism. Same argument. If you don't make the meat eater, you won't have to make the vegan to convince the meat eater to become a vegan. It's that simple. So yeah, this was my argument, that, and like you said, the uncertainties of the future and the risky nature of this life game, we should all be wanting to end this as soon as we can. The sooner the better. And no response.
Playing sport and stuff.
So he.
A distilled version of nature. That's where it's.
So he just again evaded the comment, and he went on with the. I mean, okay, whatever. And I said I can't find a counter argument to this logic.
It's not obvious that animals are suffering. So, your typical kind of park or garden. Yeah, there's lots of things I like to do. Walking.
I mean, even in the parks and the gardens, I can make the argument animals are suffering.
Used to like it a lot more.
But yeah, not
a
like
distilled version of nature. That's where it's not obvious that animals are suffering. A monkey, in a monkey.
But yeah, he just after that he just kept, and he just didn't evaded the argument. And this is the thing. This is where I see the inconsistency when it comes to primordialism and antinatalism. Yeah, there is a difference, but it doesn't make primordialism invalid. So I don't know, I was
That
still
gets off
there
on
after
seeing
that.
other chimpanzees. Horrible thing to say. Utilizing what I found to be
What is this talking about?
in
So he was
at the
he
moment.
was talking about in
I'm
Mendon
not
then.
overly enamored. When I had read
About his
when I
latest
watched
video.
Steve Godfrey's latest video.
It's some like this. There's a whole context to it. I've seen the video, and this this is just, you know,
Clumsily made points by Inmendham
you have to listen to
on
the
a very
whole context from the guy.
very emotive issue that is traumatizing for many people.
Yeah, it was about
And a very strange video
child molestation,
where he
child
tried to
pornography,
justify his
something.
points, utilizing what I found to be very perverse
I mean, this is just
argument to spit and shit in the faces of.
This is
And
just.
so it is a grievous, is a terrible.
And I said,
suggestion.
I said I agree with almost everything. I didn't mean him argues. Yeah, it's just, you can't. His logic is always right
To
most of
make
the time.
completely violates the rights of the individuals concerned and serves possibly to desensitize the watchers of such material,
Decent.
and therefore perhaps
This is not a good argument.
normalize
He you know, counter argued this in the video.
the behaviors in the videos
This is not the
for them as individuals.
whatever.
And in doing so,
So yeah, this is just the basic argument is this: there's an inconsistency when it comes to recognizing that existence is is a negative state of being because of the risky nature of life and the lack of control. It's a delusion in the human brain to want to continue to live. It's our psychology, and it's just once we're arguing logic, we can recognize that yes, being dead is the same as being not alive in the first place. So yeah, there's always going to be a question about how long should we, like, if we know what's going to happen, if we can say what's going to happen in the future, then okay, sure. But if you're uncertain and you have the opportunity to prevent the worst from happening by ending it as soon as you can, then yeah, that should be the logical thing to do.